Hi everyone, Heidi Smith here from Flutter by Heidi, and back to show you some more projects from basic to advanced crafter. So whatever your level, there's something here for you. I'll be showing you 3 different cards and explaining how I've come up with those and actually demonstrating 2 of those. So things I'm going to use. So let's show the cards first, because what I'm using depends on the card. So this is a beginner crafter. If you're just starting out and you'd like to learn how to make some cards, this is simple stamps, some ink and some paper, and it's as simple as that. Really pretty card, and all I'm doing there is using some post-it notes to create a blank area in the middle, and that's something that any of us can do at the start, just to add a little bit more interest. So our next level is if you're a bit more confident and you're ready to start cutting some layers. So this is what we call matting and layering, and it's adding a layer of card behind our panel to create a bit of an edge. You'll see I've done that twice. I've done that on the main card and then on the sentiment here, and just popped that up on what we call dimensionals, which is just a foam, double-sided foam pad. And then finally, this is when you're really into your crafting, and if you've invested in a die cutting and embossing machine, this is what you can get on here. So this is using what I showed you at the start, which are these embossing folders to create some texture. And what I've done is stamped the card first, then embossed it, and created my own layer here as well. So those are the 3 cards. You'll see on this one I've added some extra texture by die cutting our images. So here they're just stamped, here they've been die cut as well, and then I've used a focal so on the dies that come with this, that you can get with this stamp set. You don't have to get them. You'll see that not only do we have the ones that cut out the leaves, but you've got these lovely accent pieces as well, which creates some real interest for your cards. So the stamp set I'm using is this Forever Fern, which has beautiful detailed foliage images along with some sentiments and a little sort of accent splat image. Great when you're starting out, because it means it's one stamp set and you can create cards for actually an awful lot of occasions with just the one stamp set. To create the little tags here on the advanced card, I've used our lovely Labels Picker Punch, which does 3 sizes, 3 widths of banner in each of the 2 designs, which perhaps you can see on the end there. It's probably better than trying to show you the shiny image on the front. But they're lovely, just sort of a tailored effect on there as well. So let's get started with the beginner card, and we'll take it from there. So what you need to start off with is a card base, and I've created my own by cutting a sheet of A4 card at 10.5 centimetres down the middle, and I've just trimmed it to 29 centimetres and then scored at 10.5 to create my card blank. I'm using some post-it notes. These are just the very little ones, and all I'm doing is, you can measure if you want to, but I'm just popping those in the middle of my card. I'm using 2 of those. Obviously you could use one larger one if that's what you happen to have. And I'm just sort of lining those up so that they create a nice square. I'm using a colour called Soft Sea Foam, which is a really pretty pale green for my foliage. And so I'm using the leaf image here. And what I'm going to do is pop a post-it note across the top of that as well, because that stops you stamping onto the back of your card. So I'm just going to use a slightly larger post-it note. Obviously if all you've got is small ones, that's fine, because you can just keep across with those. And I'm using grid paper here, and that just helps to keep my now I've re-inked this, so actually what I might want to do, yeah, I'm just going to stamp off. I've re-inked this and it's quite juicy. The beauty of the Stampin' Up pads is that you can re-ink them. So once, if they start to get a bit pale, then it doesn't matter, because you can just buy the re-inker and add some ink to it, and then you're going to have your favourite pad back and ready to work again. But I probably what I haven't done is move that around quite as much as I would have done, so I've got a little bit of juiciness on those top images. Okay, so once you've done that, if you take off your post-it notes, by stamping onto the post-it notes, you've now got a nice little frame. And so I'm just going to come in with an ink called Blushing Bride, so again a pretty pink. And when I ink up, I'm just going to go tap, 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 because that makes sure I've got a good coverage. And I'm just going to pop that on the left-hand side there, and then repeat. In fact, I'm actually going to pop a post-it note on the bottom there. Obviously you can reuse the ones you've already used. Just going to pop it there, because this second image is going to come down, and that just stops it, you see, like so. Now you can stamp your sentiment in that same colour if you want to, but I'm going to use my Rococo Rose, which is a slightly darker shade, to make it stand out a little bit more. I'm just going to pop my hello in the middle there. And there you have a really pretty card to start off with. If you'd like to decorate the inside of your card, then just take one of your stamps again, whichever one you prefer. I'm just using my same Rococo Rose, and I'm just going to stamp it off to give that pretty foliage image on the inside. So that's our first card. So if you're a beginner crafter, it's as simple as that, but a really quick card to pop together. What I'm now going to do is just talk you through this card. So as I said, I've created a couple of layers here. On this one I've used a 1/2 centimetre slightly wider border. On this one I've just used 3mm. So if you're happy with millimetres, then you can create the narrow border, but if 1/2 centimetres works for you, or 1/4 inches, then that's with those. And I'll pop the measurements for those layers on my blog as well for you. Okay, so now on to our next card, where we're using a few more tools and techniques. So the first thing we've got to do is, again, we're starting off with a card base, exactly the same dimensions, and then we want a layer of our soft seafoam, which we're going to stamp. So again, I'm just going to use one of the stamps from the stamp set. I'm just using this leaf pattern here. I'm okay. I'm just coming down that side, and it's only this side that's going to be exposed, visible, so you don't need to do any more than that. So pop that to one side. I've then got a piece of our Whisper White again, and this is 8.5 centimetres by 13.5, and this one I'm just going to stamp all over with it, just in a random pattern, just turning my block as I go, re-inking to kind of create a random pattern. And I'm stamping again off the edges as well here. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is, now I've stamped that, to add some interest, I'm going to pop it into our embossing folder. So there are two sides. You can either use the embossed or the debossed side. You just need to decide which you prefer. I use the debossed side, so I'm going to try the embossed side. This one. That means that the sort of hollows are on the top one. So pop in the folder and line it up, and that goes through on a standard sandwich. So that is our Big Shot platform, our plate, I'll show you in a moment, our folder with the card in. You can see plate, folder with the card in, which is now embossed, and a standard plate with the platform. That's one side. Okay. So now I've created that, and so it's a bit stronger, that one, because I've re-inked it. Now we're ready to start our layering up. What I've done already is I've already cut my card base, and I've die cut a foliage image and a couple of the pink flowers, for want of a better word. So we're almost there, apart from doing our little banner. So here I've just got a scrap of Whisper White, and that is just 1/2 inch, so it's about 1.2 centimetres. And I've got a scrap of soft sea foam, which is slightly wide, so that's 3/4 of an inch. And I'm just going to come in, you could use either Blushing Bride or Rococo Rose. I've used Blushing Bride for my flowers, as I did before. And I'm actually going to, having inked that up, I'm actually going to pop that in first. And make sure that's nice and snugly in. And punch the end. Because what I want to do is pop that in towards the end. Like so. Pop my next layer up, that goes in the middle channel. So that's going to create my next layer, like so. And rather than trim it off, I'm actually going to cut it flush with the side of my card once I've added it to it. So all I'm going to do is pop a couple of dimensionals onto the back there at this far end. I just happen to be using my mini dimensionals. I'm just taking the backing off those. I'm going to add those, just lining it up at the bottom there. Flip that over and then trim flush with the side of your card, like so. I'm going to add my panel to my layer, and I'm using wet glue here. So the reason for that is because when you're using an embossing folder, there's obviously quite a bit of texture, so you want something that's really going to help make sure that that attaches firmly. So tear and tape does do the job. I just find I generally prefer to attach embossed panels with either red tape or wet glue. So there we go. And then our little frond, I'm going to just dot some of our Tombow on each of those little flower heads, which are conveniently located so that I can do that. Again, because of the fact this is going to be attached to an embossed layer, that works really well. And then these other two flowers I'm going to pop some dimensionals on, and again our mini dimensionals work really well. I'm putting 3 on this first one, and then I'm just going to put 2 on the second one on the outer side, outer edge. So if I pop that like so, on this one I'm just going to pop them on the long bit here. Gosh, you probably got me doing heavy breathing there. I just right a bit, there you go. And just arrange that in a way that pleases your eye. And then all that remains is to add that to our card front. I won't use a tape roller on this one because I've got some layers on the front there, so just a gentle round with my Tombow. And remember, you don't need a lot of Tombow, it's always just that little, it's like writing with it, drawing with it. Again, all that remains is to pop a bit of a image on the inside of that, so let's tie that in with our floral image. And there you have our cards. So here we go, cards using the same sort of basic style, same colours, from beginner through to what we call a casual crafter. So you do some crafting, but you perhaps haven't yet moved on to embossing and die cutting. And here's our avid crafter die cutting and embossing folder. There you go. I hope you've enjoyed watching that. If you'd like to purchase any of the Forever Greenery suite, the Forever Fern stamp set and dies, or any of the inks, just pop along to my blog. You'll find the links there. Or pop along direct to my Stampin' Up shop, heidismith.stampinup.net. It'd be lovely if you chose me as your demonstrator, and I can then send you my thank you gifts. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe now if you'd like to see more of my videos, and pop back and see me again soon. Bye!